Rich, Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you? Today we're going to have a barn chat. I'm going to talk a little bit about Danny's porch time and some of the research that he was covering. I'd covered in an earlier barn chat, and I want to touch on that again. But Danny was dead on with what he was telling us. Okay, and research backs it up. So be right with you. Get to this. Okay, I want to talk to you a little bit about Danny's porch time that he had last week, where he was talking about that it appears that we may be heading into what is potentially a new ice age. I'd covered this in a barn chat a couple months back, where this fellow's research was really, they had been running his weather models for about 20 years now, and his weather models track correct. Okay, so if you're a global warming person, bad news. That model that the UN put out for global warming has not been accurate from day one. And that usually tells you that the model's flawed. There's something wrong. And you had Russia's research back at the beginning of all this climate change research, where all the science was settled. They came out with that a lot of the problems with our weather is caused by the sun. It's not man-made. Okay, and that seems to be true. Our, because they're basing everything on, you're creating all these CO gases, and that's what's causing all these problems. The fact of the matter is CO gases on this planet have been far worse in its history without the effects that they carry on with. So, and good old planet Earth can produce plenty of it on its own. Doesn't need our help. Okay? So, makes you begin to ask the question, well, if we're not doing it, then why are they trying to lay it off on us? It's control, people. It's all it is. Just control. They want to tell you how you're going to live and what you're going to drive and how you're going to drive it. Okay? How much you're going to pollute and what taxes you're going to have to pay because you do pollute. It's nonsense. And now it's beginning to fall apart on the UN. Okay? Because even NASA and other groups are beginning to get on board with, we're watching this, we're looking at the models, we're looking at what the sun's doing, and we're concerned that indeed we are headed into an ice age. Now, whether it's going to happen in our life, who knows? Okay, very possible though that we're going to see the beginning of it. Most folks down here after this winter will go, yeah. But actually, we're just going back more into the winters that was when I was a child, and your grandparents experienced. I know up in southern Illinois, man, when I was a small kid, and it started snowing in November and didn't quit till March, and those days went away. Now they're starting to come back. Okay. Now here's the thing where Danny was absolutely correct, is if we're entering into a mini ice age, it could be potentially a large problem. Growing seasons are going to change. Where you can even grow food is going to change. So you're looking at food shortages, things of this nature. But primarily, that ice puts pressure on the crust. And what they have found is historically, during these ice ages, the way it turns from a mini ice age to a ice age is volcanic activity. You have a couple big volcanoes or one super volcano blow up during that time frame, during these solar diminishes. Yeah, can't even say it tonight. I'm tired. De minimis solar activities. You run the risk of putting a dust cover up in the atmosphere that even blocks off what little warmth you're getting from the sun, turning it from a mini ice age to a full-blown ice age. Okay, it's happened repeatedly in history. Okay, long before man started driving cars. Okay, so it's not our fault. And what we're looking at here, and if you look at other research, there is reason for concern. And basically, you get 2 miles worth of ice stacked up anywhere on this planet's Earth crust. It presses down on the magma. And the magma is going to start looking for weak spots to come to the surface. Thus, more volcanic activity during a mini ice age. We have some volcanoes sitting out here right now. One of big concern is Yellowstone. That is a super volcano. And it's already done a lot of things that has geologists concerned. All right? You know, the ground level's rising, which means there's pressure underneath there. Lakes are drying up. You know, things of this nature. Things are becoming more toxic with gases. There's pressure building under Yellowstone. I've seen a couple documentaries even on what the end result of a supervolcano like Yellowstone going off would be. That alone would be enough to probably throw you into a mini ice age. With what we're getting ready to enter into now, solar-wise, yeah, you'd probably be looking at a full-blown ice age. So Danny was very much on target with, it could be bad. You know, it could be bad. But the weather models, okay, that are really tracking true are the ones pointing toward an ice age. Something to think about. If you're out looking for land and so forth, might be something you want to consider. You know, maybe that place way in southern, way in the south may be a better idea than someplace way in the north. Because if it does come about in our lifetime, that land up north will become part of a glacier. Okay. Other ramifications of it. It can happen quickly. Okay. There's evidence of where, you know, mammals and so forth from some of these unusual ice ages froze suddenly. Wasn't like the food wasn't available, which would tell you that it was prolonged cold and the animals starved to death. They had full bellies. They just ate. All right. And suddenly got frozen to death. So, yeah, there could be some strange weather going on. And that was long before, here again, man was doing anything that could cause any kind of environmental collapse. So, you know, to you folks that have been running around thinking you can save the planet by driving a Prius, you've been led down the primrose path. Okay, so science isn't settled. Matter of fact, most of the scientists are beginning to step across the other line now, going, "Wait a minute, we're not getting warmer. We're headed for an ice age." All the facts are pointing that direction. Now, as a matter of fact, all this nonsense started off with, the original predictions was that we would head into at least a mini ice age. That was back in the 60s. And it looks like that was probably good research because the fellows that started that and stuck to it and did their models, they've tracked true. It goes along, like I said, with some of the Russian research that your sun is causing a lot of this. And will it change? Yeah. I mean, that's what they found in the past. These ice ages disappeared as fast as they happened because the sun. All right. It's nature, folks. The climate changes, and you have nothing to do with it, and you have no control over it. So, but the best thing to do is kind of look at it long term. If not in your generation, maybe for your children's generation or your grandchildren's generation, maybe that homestead bay needs to be way south, or at least you can still grow food. Okay, just something to think about. So, like I said, good job, Danny. Like I said, I'd hit on it once before in a barn chat, re-stressing it to you. That's the direction we seem to be going in. And like I said, to you global warmist, the science isn't settled. Matter of fact, now it's getting even more unsettled because the more scientists that are looking at this data are beginning to back up and go, oh, wait a minute. And global warming is going to fall apart on the UN. Okay? Don't buy into this nonsense. And that's all it is, nonsense. Does the planet warm? Yes, it does. Does it cool? Yes, it does. Is it nature? Yes, it is. And it's very simple. During ice ages, it puts a lot of pressure on the planet and on its crust, causes volcanoes to pop off, which causes all sorts of catastrophes and makes matters worse. But then eventually the sky is clear and the sun comes back strong and things warm up and everything's okay again for a while. It's kind of like, if you think of it as your furnace in the wintertime. I mean, we're floating out here in the vacuum of space. Cold, very cold around us. And it's that big ball of fire that keeps us in a moderate temperatures. Okay? And throughout mankind's history, recorded history, it changes. Okay? Man's been around for so many ice ages. We survive them. Okay? Now, will cities like, like the last big ice age they had, places like New York, they're gone. Don't worry about the sea level rising a ½ inch a year. You're going to have 2 miles thick glacier come down and just scrape it off. It's gone. Okay? Most of your major cities up north will be hit with glaciers. Look at the paths of them. There's evidence of where they come from and how they come. All right? And if you're living in one of those cities, you might want to think about changing your address. You know what I'm saying? If these winters start getting bad, you might really want to start considering it. Because this does change quickly. Like I said, they found mammoths that were eating tropical foods one day and froze to death the next with their stomach still full. So strange things can happen during one of these things. You may not have a lot of warning. Okay? But don't invest in a lot of real estate up in that area because it's liable to become just rock. Because the topsoil all gets moved south with the glaciers. Okay? Wherever they stop, that's where the dirt ends up. Everything else is scraped down to the rocks. And it's going to take a long time for it to come back again. So, something to think about. Not to panic about. You can't stop it even if you are panicked. Okay? There's nothing mankind can do about it. Okay? Other than to keep it in the back of your head and start preparing for it. Now's the time to start slipping into a what-if mode. What if this does happen in my lifetime? Am I prepared? I won't have electric. I won't have gas. I'm going to have to go back to the 1800s style of living. Can I do that? Am I prepared to do that? Do I have the skills to do that? See? And now while you have the time, is the time to start preparing. Okay? Danny's very smart in what he's talking about doing. All right, start setting yourself up for What happens with no electricity? Okay, what happens with no gas? No diesel for your tractors? How do I function? How do I keep food on the table? How do I keep my family warm? How do I live? All right? And prepare. Just prepare. Learn. Learn those skills. Our forefathers could survive a lot. All right? Because they had the skills to. We didn't need electric. We didn't need gasoline. We didn't have them. All right? And they did just fine. Lived pretty good lives, as a matter of fact. So, learn the skills that it takes. Learn how to prepare your homestead. And one that I stress a lot, okay, to folks, learn bushcraft. In those woods out there, there is a lot to eat. There is survival out there. Okay, when all else fails, you can't grow a crop. Mother Nature will grow one for you if you know what it is and where to find it. Learn. Okay, learn. Bushcraft is very important. So I'm not saying run out to some bushcraft course. Just start getting some books on wild edible plants and take your tush out into the woods and find some of them. Okay? And go, this is it. This is what it looks like. This is where it grows. And start learning. If you want to spend a lot of money on a bushcraft course, okay, but you can learn it on your own. So Danny was dead on with this thing. God love him. But yeah, and it goes against everything that the modern American wants to think. They all want to think global warming and it's all man-made and we're in control and we can fix this. No, you can't. All right. If we go into an ice age, there's no fixing it. Some of the things that they talk about with that ice age, like I said, increased volcanic and earthquake seismic events and things of this nature, just from the sheer weight of the ice that builds up, pressing down on the crust, causes additional problems. What happens if, the San Andreas Fault goes off, or the Ring of Fire up around Seattle goes off, or the New Madrid Fault goes off, all during this crisis? It can get even more interesting. Do you have any control over it? No, you don't. But just start thinking, what if? Okay? And try to prepare for the best you can. You're not going to be able to prepare for all the what ifs. But you need to start thinking about it. Because it looks like we're going to be headed into, if not this generation, near future generations, you want your children to know. And you want your grandchildren to know. Because it may mean whether or not they survive. Because when something like this goes on, folks, I'll take these last few minutes to explain it. Government's going to shut down, which means no Social Security checks, no welfare checks, no more food stamps. All those things are gone. You talk about a world without order, it's going to go nuts. All right? People are going to be panicked. People will be starving. People will die. Prepare. Okay? You may not be able to, I've heard preppers talk about, well, I got 3 years worth of food stashed in my house. Okay. A stationary position in a world gone crazy is a target. And somebody's going to come for it. And I want you to think along a scenario just once. You hear a lot of these guys talk, well, I can do this and I can do that. Our Navy SEALs, some of the best out there, aren't they? And boys can do miracles. All right? Great guys. Army Special Operators, same way. Okay? What happens when a fire team, who's now taken their families and their children under their wing, and their primary concern is to keep their families alive? They're not worried about your family. They're not worried about you. And they become predators to keep their families alive. How you going to do against that? Okay? When they come calling, They're going to do. I can guarantee you. They have the tools, they have the training, and they're going to take you out. And they're going to take what you have so that their family survives. Now, they'd prefer not to have to kill you, but they'll kill you if they must, because their first and foremost priority will be their family. Same thing with your police and things of this nature. So they're not going to be your buddy anymore. They may be your adversary. Okay? So if you think, storing 3 years worth of food in your house is going to protect you, probably not. Somebody's going to come and take it from you. If not guys like that, it may just be a mob, well armed, that just overwhelm you. See what I'm saying? Have secondary plans. Okay? You might want to scatter food stashes around. Have numerous locations to go to. Because you may have to take to the woods and move around, folks, just to survive. Because a stationary home will become a target. That's simple. They see that you got a light on or smoke coming out of your fireplace, you just became a target. Because they need what you have. All right? So in your planning and in your what ifs, understand that if your only plan is to stay put where you're at, you may have just planned to fail. And you may have just failed your family. Have secondary plans, third plans. You want to plan A, B, C, D, E, and F. All right. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. If things go nuts in the world, that'd be a big mistake to make. So, on that cheerful note, start your what ifs. Start thinking. I'm not expecting the ice age to hit next week. Okay? So you have time, but make sure you learn your skills. You figure out the best way to survive something like that. And you pass it to your children. And you make sure your children pass it to their grandchildren, because we don't know exactly when this will happen. All right? And we need to get back to the basics. How to survive off of good old Mother Earth without all this man-made nonsense. Okay? Hope this helps you out a little bit. Thank Danny if you get a chance to drop him a comment on that his last porch time, because he's dead on with it. And need to wake up, folks. It looks like we're headed to something, and it's coming pretty quickly. Hopefully I won't be around. I'm getting pretty old. Okay. But if not, I'll see you out there, hopefully. This is Richard Tennessee Homestead. Love you guys, appreciate you, and start thinking about this a little bit, okay, and plan. All right? So that you guys come out of it going, boy, remember that ice age we survived? Take care.